my god. Fucking guy.
I'm sorry to upset you so much.
It's alright. I'll overlook it for the sake of the show and our fans.
This is Justin Lesko, Brazilian Jiu Jitsu brown belt and former pro MMA fighter.
And I'm Mike Callahan, a Brazilian Jiu Jitsu brown belt and a law enforcement officer.
Welcome to That Jiu Jitsu Podcast. We have a lot to discuss, so let's not waste any time and let's get right into. So much has happened. Like, I'm checking my phone like right up to the minute we start recording this because like news is coming out left and right about UFC stuff.
Right.
Obviously, Conor is pretend retired again.
Pretend retired again.
Yeah. So like it comes out over the weekend that he's retired, which, but kind of, dick move timing of like we should be talking about, and you and I will talk about Amanda Nunes, dominant win, 2 vicious knockouts, Aljo with a beautiful choke. Like, now the story becomes Sunday morning, Conor announces his retirement and sort of steals a little bit of that thunder, but
with that homemade retirement cake from his kid.
I was expecting to see like up in the left corner like Getty Images, like he just pulled it off of Google or something. Conor did that interview with Ariel where he basically said like the game doesn't excite him right now. And it seemed like from that statement that he said he basically is foreseeing they're supposed to do the Gaethje-Khabib fight. He doesn't think it's actually going to happen, and then he has to wait longer for the fight. And he claims he wanted to do him versus Gaethje for an interim title, and the UFC said no. So it kind of reads to me like a I'm taking my ball and going home thing.
Yeah, why create an interim title?
Yeah, like
at this juncture. Like, I understand the Khabib Ferguson fight fell through a bunch, and I understand that Khabib's not really been the most reliable, but a global pandemic is right, a pretty legitimate reason, right? Like when you're confined to your country and you really can't leave to go anywhere, that's a legitimate reason.
But here's Conor's shtick is he announces he's retired, and then the Khabib Tony fight's gonna happen, and then in October we're gonna hear the storyline for the fight is gonna be the fight that pulled Conor out of retirement. Conor's unretiring just for this fight. Because if Khabib wins, which I do think Khabib will win, even though I hope Justin will win, we'll talk about that as it gets closer. But as Khabib wins, this is the Conor had to come out of retirement to get his revenge on Khabib, and that's what's happening. And then if Justin wins, then it's this is the fight everyone wants to see. 2 guys are going to stand and bang, and it's a bargaining chip right now to try to get what he wants, and then it's a hype machine for the fight that will eventually happen in the fall. He just wants to stay relevant and keep his name out there.
He's going to fight the winner of that fight. Cejudo's going to come back. Well, they just announced that Alexander
Volkanovski
is fighting Max Holloway in July.
That's the third title fight on that card. Like, we have so much to talk about tonight.
Know. But so those guys are fighting. So, but
yeah,
Cejudo will come out and fight for the featherweight title.
I don't care. I don't want that. I don't want that fight. Like, I don't.
He's so cringe.
It's nonsense.
And then Jon Jones is going to fight either like Dominic Reyes. He's going to fight Ngannou. Like, he's going to fight somebody. The 3 of them. There's no way that they don't fight. It's just.
Well, when Cejudo originally announced he was retiring after the last fight, it was like just conveniently at the time when he's supposed to be renegotiating his contract, and it's just another bargaining chip. He thinks that he's more desirable than he is, and his whole like I'm cringy, like that whole act, like
terrible.
He
jumped
really
the shark. Is terrible.
It's really bad that like you could be cringe in a way that I enjoy that I don't like you, but it's so cringe that I'm just over it. I don't even want to watch it to hate watch it. I just don't want to watch it at all. Like, get out of here. Just be retired. Go away. Just be done.
And Dana White kind of took that stance too. He said after the after the fight when he announced that he was on board with the retirement, and then he stripped him of the title. Like he's like he
Like
said something
immediately.
like he's like
Yeah.
we're gonna give him like 9 days to figure it out. I'm like that's kind of an odd number, but I can dig it.
So you have so Jon went off on Dana again this weekend. We talked about it last week how he was going off on Dana, and then he's going off this week about the UFC gave him a Bentley to like distract him from the fact that he wasn't making any money, and the UFC was making millions off of him. And it's like, yeah, a Bentley is great, but I also like I want that money. Like if I'm at a point where the company's giving me a Bentley, like get that money too.
But I feel like this is a recurring theme on this show. But here we go.
Episode 4, we're into all the recurring themes.
UFC. If you're giving out Bentleys for fights,
I'll take one.
I'm totally available. Like, no, this has been the long-standing knock on MMA, and it's again so early on in the grand scheme of things with MMA. But if you look at the purses that the boxers pull, it's crazy compared to what the top stars.
Yeah, and like even if you look at it from a pure number standpoint of boxers make X and UFC fighters make Y, the biggest number is the percentage of revenue thing. Like when you look at
there's no revenue sharing. Yeah,
when you look at percentages of what NFL players are bringing in and NBA players are bringing in, the UFC guys are making half of what the other major sports in this country are making, and then like literally risking your life every time you go out there. There was just a thing I saw Gray Maynard had put out about someone had asked him if they got bonus monies like for those wars he had with Frankie Edgar, and he was saying he got $100K like as a bonus, but he said when he was walking to the cage for one of the fights, he realized I'm getting like $26K for this fight. I don't remember the exact numbers were, but it was like $26K for this fight, and it cost me $20K for the training camp. So if I lose, I'm losing money on this deal. Like, it's awful. And they almost killed each other in that fight. That was one of the most brutal fights. But this is the point where it's like Dana's has this mentality now where he even said about Masvidal, because Masvidal also wants more money. Like, if you don't want to fight, you don't have to fight. If Jon doesn't want to fight, he doesn't have to fight. Masvidal doesn't want to fight, he doesn't have to fight. Like, you kind of need these guys, Dana.
There really wasn't a general consensus on how much the UFC was worth until they sold it. Until the Fertitta brothers sold it to Ari Emanuel, right? That's his name?
Yeah. I'll always say Ari Gold, though, because
that's who it's based off, right?
Yeah.
It's difficult if you're the UFC to then go and say, like, we don't have the money. This company's worth $4 billion.
They just bought a private island.
$1 billion. Like, Dana White, he made out of that deal the best because he got equity in the UFC when the Fertittas bought it to be the president. So I think he got 10% of the company. So he made $400 million on the sale of that, on the sale of the UFC. And then they put him back in the same position, so he's getting paid a salary, and I believe that he got equity in the company again. Like, it's like these guys, and you're paying these guys. You see people on the main card that are getting 16 to fight, 16 to win.
Yeah.
You know, that's crazy. That's crazy.
When you're buying a private island to put on fights so you can keep making money, you got the money.
They didn't buy it.
They didn't buy it? They leased it?
I don't know. I guess they leased it. He got very heated the other day because Masvidal said something about buying an island. And he's like, I'm saying this for the billionth time. I didn't buy an island. But like that would be the ultimate like
all right, listen. If you're in the conversation where you may or may not have bought an island, you can pay your employees more.
But just I'm gonna just buy an island for temporary purpose, like temporarily, just to serve my whatever needs the UFC has temporarily. Like that is the definition of fuck you money. Like I have enough money to just splurge, buy an island, and then in a couple weeks or months, just totally be done.
Never go there again.
Yeah, I'm fucking done.
Yeah. Well, like the whole Masvidal thing, because one of the fights, I mean, all right, let's get into the July card that was announced. One of the fights is that it's going to be Usman versus Gilbert Burns, and Masvidal was saying about how I think he kind of implicated himself a little bit because he was like, why would I take half the money to fight someone when the other guy, meaning Usman, isn't a draw? But I think
Right.
what that really means is Masvidal, maybe you weren't the draw in the Nate Diaz fight, and maybe this is your actual pay scale. Who knows?
Yeah.
That just
Don't
whether he has a point or not. I mean, I
George.
don't think no one cares about
Kill us.
Usman.
Don't kill us for saying this, but
I
yeah,
know.
that's exactly what it is. Like, and nobody does care about Usman. And at the
I
same
agree.
time,
I agree. And I
you
think
know,
Gilbert Burns gives Usman gives
Mm.
him, based on the performance we just saw out of Burns, I think he gives Usman some problems. And I don't want Usman to be a champion anymore, so I'd rather Burns gets the fight over Masvidal. But I mean, either way, it's hard.
Gilbert Burns actually fought at a fight. Were you on that card that he fought on? You were.
Yeah.
That was your first fight to win that he headlined
Yeah.
against. He fought Nick Calvanese from BJJ United.
Yeah.
That was actually a good scrap.
Yeah. Yeah. Gilbert Burns is no joke, man. Like, he didn't pass my guard that night when we were at that card. I mean, we didn't compete against each other, but he still didn't pass my guard.
You weren't doing jiu-jitsu again. Like when you just walked by him backstage, he didn't pass your guard.
Yeah, he didn't pass my guard. I actually don't think we were even in the same locker room, but regardless.
Do you remember that? They gave them their own locker room upstairs, and they moved all the other fighters downstairs.
Yeah.
And
I do remember that.
We walked upstairs after your fight, and I'm like, we walked in, and it was him and his brother, and like their whole family. I'm like, we are not supposed
to. Yeah, this is not where we're
we're
not on this level.
Yeah.
But Masvidal, like, again, it is hard when you just made a ton of money for one fight to accept a fight at a lower amount of money when it's going to be for like a quote unquote legitimate title this time as opposed to the BMF belt, the fight you just had. But again, like, I don't know what the answer is. If you're Masvidal, I understand not wanting to fight, but you're not going to get what you're asking for in any other fight anyway. So, like, what do you do? And I don't think Masvidal has the money where he can just not ever fight again. So it's like maybe at a time when you have Conor, air quotes, retired, Jones is beefing over money, Cejudo is retired, Masvidal's beefing over money. Maybe we should think about a union where these type of issues don't have to happen as frequently. Maybe these guys should get together. I mean, they've tried it before and Dana crushed it. But
that's the other problem too, is that he such a stranglehold on the fight. It's like a monopoly. I mean, you can't really say that because there's other organizations out there.
Look, like Leslie Smith was like the one spearheading the fighters union for the UFC guys.
And what happened?
They just cut her.
See you later.
Went to Bellator, and all right. Yeah, I mean,
now
you're still fighting, but like
now she's making $7,500 to fight and $7,500 to win.
Yeah, like you would need, if you were gonna do a union, you need Jones, Masvidal, Conor. You need the biggest guys to all pull together and get something going.
And the other thing too is if you're looking to go to another organization and you're a fighter, the other organizations, they'll splurge on like one fighter. So like that one fighter might come back and be like, I'm making more money than I ever was with the UFC. It's like, yeah, because they just decimated their bankroll to bring you over here and you're not fighting at the level that you were before. But if you're like
guys like Benson Henderson, who left the UFC and went to Bellator, and they probably paid him more money than they had ever paid anyone else at the time he went there. But like, he's also fighting in the B leagues. You know, it's
they very rarely make decisions regarding talent that come back and bite them in.
Yeah,
and guess what? If they do, if they're wrong. If they let Dan Henderson go and then he goes to Strikeforce and he starts doing well, we'll just sign him back.
We'll just buy Strikeforce.
Yeah.
All right. So Jones has his big beef that's happening right now with wanting more money and all that. Conor's fake air quotes retired. Cejudo's retired, but says he'll come back if the right fight for Volkanovski's there. Then Masvidal is basically saying he wants more money, which we know he's probably not going to get. So, of those four, who fights first? Who's the first one to either end their retirement or end their, I guess, holdout, for lack of a better term?
Either Jones or Masvidal. And the reasoning behind that is because both of them were ready to fight.
Yeah.
So they both, like, Jones wanted to fight Ngannou, and Masvidal, okay, so it'll probably be Masvidal because he just wants to fight, right? He wanted to fight Usman, and he wanted to fight Diaz, so he wants to fight. And it's not going to take a colossal amount of money to get him back. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Then Jones, and I think he moves up to heavyweight. If not, they make him fight Dominic Reyes again.
Which I think he lost that first fight to Dominic Reyes, by the way. So
disagree. We disagree.
We do disagree. He came on strong rounds 4 and 5, but he clearly lost 1, 2, and 3.
No, well, he clearly lost 1 and 2, and then I think 1, 3, 4, and 5. But then I would say McGregor, and then I'd say Cejudo.
I think Cejudo's big thing about wanting to fight at 45. I don't think. All right, so Volkanovski versus Holloway 2. Whoever wins that, I don't think either of them gives a shit about fighting Henry Cejudo. You know what I mean? Like, why would that be on your radar? So I agree that he would be the last of those 4 to fight again. I pretty much agree with your ranking, but also because of timing of if McGregor's only going to come back for that title fight, it's not going to be till the winter. Exactly. So it's all right. So we're in agreement, maybe for different reasons, but we're in agreement.
And the other thing you have to write. Here's the other thing about Cejudo, right? So when he won that gold medal, I think he won that gold medal at 55 kilos, which is like 120 pounds.
Yes.
Okay. So then he moves up and he starts fighting at 125. Then he starts fighting at 135. Then now he's going to go fight these guys at 145. Like, Max Holloway is a fucking monster for 145 pounds. You know,
he really is. He's a big guy.
Volkanovski is also, he's not tall, but he's a big guy too. Like,
Volkanovski used to be a rugby player who was weighing over 200 pounds. Like, he fights at 45 now, but he's thick, dude. He's got size on him.
Like, I mean, eventually there's going to have to be a limit as to what Cejudo's trying to do. I know he wants to, but I think his eyes are too big for his stomach at this point.
Here's what I think happened. Here's what I think happened with Cejudo. He thought, because as I said earlier, it was like contract renegotiation time. He thought if he retired that everyone would be against it, and no one cared. Everyone was either relieved he was retired or just did not care. So his whole plan of, I'm going to bluff a retirement, backfired when we all called him on it. So now he's trying to drum up this 45 talk because he's trying to, like, I'll come back now. I'm ready because I remember I said that about fighting at 45. Like, he's just trying to get back in because his bluff didn't work.
Yeah, and let's not forget that they almost shut a fucking division down when he was the champion. With him as the champion, they were like, maybe we won't have a 125-pound class anymore.
Yeah, we could probably do without it. Yeah.
All right, see you, guy. I mean, move up and weight or don't and just leave. Like, we're good one way or the other. So, he's not, like, people, when he does that cringeworthy shit, people aren't laughing with him. Like, they're laughing at him. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like a crowd pleaser. It's not like people are like, oh, he's great. Like, he's a great fighter, obviously, but oh my God, he's brutal to watch try to promote his fight.
Yeah, it's awful. It's awful. He's like Usman. I don't give a shit about Usman. Like, obviously he's a great fighter, but I
like that he beat up Colby Covington.
Me too. I really enjoyed that. I really, really enjoyed that. But I don't. So when Usman was on Joe Rogan's show, right? It was a great interview. I came away from it like, all right, like, okay, Usman, I see you. I see, what you're about.
Right.
And then ever since then, I've never seen that guy again. I've seen whatever like character he's trying to put on, or if he's trying to be on purpose the most bland guy in the world. I just I want that real interaction like he had with Joe. And I'm not a fan because I don't feel like anything he's saying is genuine. Like I'm just not into his gig. I'm just not into what he's putting out.
So when like the UFC really started going mainstream, it was like 2004 ish. You know, it was like because 2000 that was like with the Ultimate Fighter and everything. But like you had the guys like Randy Couture, Chuck Liddell, Matt Hughes, Rich Franklin. Like those guys just fought. You know, and it really wasn't until McGregor came around
Yeah.
that and even before, like when Jon Jones was younger, he didn't promote fights like he up until that DC fight, he didn't really. But
No.
like now,
Well,
people see that as maybe the most lucrative route to go is like be a good fighter and try and sell tickets. And Usman is another cringeworthy,
yeah, he's
fighter in
trying
terms of the
too hard.
content he puts out. You know, when he
Like
when he postures up and he's like talking like it's like what do you? He's
it's
like, when
either
they asked him about Masvidal,
with him it's either it's cringe when he's trying or he's not trying and it's super dull and super boring. Like just be your normal regular dude who happens to be a world champion level fighter and I'd be more of a fan. But so we sort of touched on all of these fights, but the big announcement of 3 title fights on July 11th, Volkanovski versus Holloway 2, which that first fight, Volkanovski clearly won, but I'm hyped for the rematch to see how Holloway adjusts because I think
yeah, I like Mac Holloway.
he's a good dude, man, and all of his stuff on YouTube, like the videos he puts out, are so funny. You
Yeah.
have the Peter Yan versus Aldo fight, which we previously talked about, is not in my opinion, a real championship fight because Aldo has no business being in there, but it's on this card. And then you have Usman versus Burns, which we also kind of talked about already. I think Burns gives Usman trouble, but and we can do more of a breakdown about each fight as it gets closer and predictions and stuff. But putting
It's
3
it's
title fights on that card is pretty huge.
it's one of the most stacked cards in recent memory. I'm looking at it right now. Frankie Edgar's fighting Pedro Munoz. Paige Van Zant's on the card. Rose Namajunas is fighting. Is that this one? Yeah, Jessica Andrade,
Slammed her on her
how do you say
head.
her name?
Andrade.
Andrade.
Yeah.
Who slammed her on her head when and promptly ended the fight, which Rose was dominating prior to that. But
I
it's a
honestly think
stacked card.
the best part about that Rose Andrade fight was Dominic Cruz saying, "You see, she has this grip on the Kimura here that means Andrade can't pick her up," and then like 2
Bam!
seconds later, it slams her on her head, knocks her out. But
Yeah. So let's not spend too much time on this
no,
because we
we'll come
have a
back
couple
to it.
weeks.
Yeah,
But
and it's
this
more
is
just the
it's a
fact that it was
stacked card.
announced, and it was more just the fact that it was announced, within a couple hours of us recording this. So I'm obviously hyped for such a stacked card, and it sort of leads into the card that's this weekend, which is headlined by Jessica Ai and Cynthia Carvillo. And are the UFC putting on too many cards that this has to be considered a main event? You
Yeah,
have
it's been a
3
complaint.
title fights. You have 3 title fights in a couple weeks that you could probably put like 2 on one card and one headline the one this weekend, or spread all 3 out. But like, are we watering down the product?
Yeah, it's been a complaint for years. I mean, you look back in the days like USFC, like 52 and 50, like there were like 2 months in between those cards. And then it got to the point where they were putting out a card every month, and I always liked that model. But now sometimes you have, and outside of this whole COVID thing, sometimes you have 4 cards a month.
Like, it's sort of like counterintuitive of I like fights, love watching the UFC, like I want to watch it as much as possible, but I also try to look at it from this perspective of like, if you're a casual fan and you're trying to grow the sport
Yep.
and be even more mainstream, casual is not going to care when there's a fight every weekend and they have no emotion invested in who's fighting. And then when you do these super cards with the one in July, yeah, you're going to pull in a ton of viewers. But when you follow it up the next week and there's going to be a card headlined by two people no one's ever heard of, you're going to get a big drop off. Like, you'd be better served doing a super card once a month and then a month later do another bigger card as opposed to doing 4 cards a month and no one's on them and no one cares. The fights that happened last weekend were awesome fights. I did think at a couple times throughout the night that DC might have been high when he was doing his commentary.
Right.
Because he was real giggly the whole time. Like,
yeah, it
real giggly. Like, the commentator, I like DC as a commentator. I think he's really good at it. I think he has a heavy wrestling bias, which sometimes gets annoying. But he was giggle fest during that whole card. It's kind of funny to listen to.
He wasn't himself. I don't mind him. I really don't. Like, I think he offers a lot, and I really like how the UFC puts the fighters on the desk there, right? So you have Anik, and then you have DC and Cruz and Felder and those guys. We talked about it last week, but yeah, I think that's a great move by them. But DC was a little off last weekend.
Yeah, but the main event was Amanda Nunes. I feel like I say it every week, but greatest of all time, and she just, in this fight, I don't know if it was Amanda's the greatest of all time or if it was a combination of Felicia Spencer had no business being in there with her or both, but Felicia Spencer, super, super tough, like sticking it out, obviously. Do you think the corner should have stopped it, though, after maybe round 4?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it was obvious early on. Like, it was, you put it, when we were talking today about it, I think you put it perfect. Like, why a child fight? Like, and the disparity there is obviously, like, Amanda Nunes is up here, and everyone else is just down here. She has cleaned out both divisions. Like, I don't know where you go from here. And ESPN actually had an article that kind of echoes what you're saying about how, we should stop putting the label of, like, female GOAT, and then she should just be included in the greatest of all time.
Yeah.
And they listed a bunch of people. They list Jon Jones, and they listed Fedor. They listed George St. Pierre and Anderson Silva. Like, they listed all these people, and I'm like, I don't know if I'm ready to put her with there, just because Saturday night it was so obvious. Like, look at the level of competition that they're putting in front of her. That girl had no business being in the cage.
And like, again, like, I feel bad like knocking on Felicia Spencer because, like, she was super tough. She stayed in that fight the whole time. She never looked for a way out. Like, she
on
was
a heart.
Yeah, but the way she moves, like, she moves like a soccer mom doing like a cardio class. Like, she doesn't move like an elite athlete, and Amanda Nunes moves and fights like an elite athlete. And the competition disparity, obviously, is because Amanda is really great, but like you said, I just don't know who else there is for her to really even have a challenge against. She cleaned out both divisions. I don't know where she goes from here.
When she fought Cyborg and they were throwing down like the first 30 seconds, you were like, holy shit. Like, you knew somebody was going to get knocked out, but like, it was just obvious. Like, the way that they were throwing, the way that they were moving, it was just like, okay, this shit is like 2 high-level strikers. Every other fight that you see Nunes fight in, it's like she just outclasses people on the feet. And then she was tossing Spencer around. It's like, okay, she beat the shit out of me on my feet. Okay, now she just threw me on my head. Oh, and now she's beating the shit out of me on the ground. It's like, where do you go? And that's what the corner needs to realize. Like, what avenue can she go down in this fight to be successful? Standing? Okay, that's not happening. Wrestling? Okay, that's not happening. Groundwork? Okay, that's not happening. Like, you have to know that there's no way she's going to win at this point.
Yeah, and I think that's like the corner's job right there. Is you should realize everyone has a chance that you could clip somebody. Everyone, has a chance you could fall into a submission or catch something. But at a certain point, you got to play the odds a little bit. You landed like 12 strikes throughout the first 3 rounds or whatever it is. The odds of you catching her and finishing her, is really, really low, and you're getting beat up. Like that's where the corner needs to like save your fighter a little bit. Like I really don't like the mentality of just let her go out on her shield. Like at a certain point, there's no chance you're winning a fight, and like you should be able to trust your coaches that way. When I broke my arm, like a couple days after surgery, we went to the academy, and Anthony basically had to tell me like, "Listen, man, we're done. Like you're hurt. It's not worth going on. Like you're done." And that was it. Like we've never talked about it again since then. I knew he knew what was best for me, and he had my best interest at heart. And I listened when he said it was time. It was time, and you should be able to trust your coach that way if you're a fighter. So if you're in a fight and your coach comes up to you and says, "This is done, you're not going any further," like you shouldn't be mad about that, and you should have that level of trust in your coaching staff.
The perfect example is Justin Gaethje during that fight with Ferguson. They just released the clips of the corner between all the rounds.
Yeah,
And between the fourth and
Eddie's
fifth round,
cornering was rough.
but between the fourth and fifth round, when Whitman was talking to him, he's like, "You got one more." He didn't even know he was going into the fifth round,
Yeah,
and he was beating the shit out of Tony
yeah,
Ferguson. Like he
yeah,
was obviously on the winning end of that. So imagine how scrambled somebody's head is when they're on the other side.
yeah,
You know? So yeah,
yeah.
I agree with you. You have to, you know, as a corner, you have to have the best interest. That has to be the
Yeah,
top priority.
and again, it's a tough line to walk because anyone can clip anyone. You have to start weighing the how much damage is this person going to take for the low probability when they haven't landed a punch in 5 or 6 minutes of this fight. Like I would have liked to seen her corner stop it, and we can leave it there and move on. Aljamain Sterling looked phenomenal. Phenomenal. He came out so quick to the start of that fight, had the back like almost immediately, and what was really impressive was the hand fighting to set up the choke. When it was on the jaw, he was squeezing, it wasn't obviously going to finish, and he kept hand fighting. Like just a beautiful performance, I thought.
The Sarah Jiu Jitsu, man, that the Sarah Longo guys are no fucking joke.
Yeah, you're right.
He he ran through him. It couldn't have went like I thought he was gonna win. Um, I wasn't
But
100% confident, obviously, but it was after that. I'm like, he should probably fight for the title. Like
yeah,
like Jose Aldo, like see guy. Like this kid should be fighting for the title.
I
Although
agree.
it's still in the back of my mind how years ago he was calling out Brian Caraway, and Brian Caraway, who another cringeworthy fighter, came out and beat him. But
Yeah, that was
yeah,
bad.
he looked really impressive. He looked really, really, really impressive. But I that's what I've always said about those Sarah Longo guys. Like that whole fight team, like Ray Longo is a phenomenal coach, right? Like he's a
Yeah,
phenomenal coach.
yeah,
And then when you put in Sarah and his background and his jujitsu, like those guys are great. I remember Chris Weidman was training jujitsu for like a year and went up
yeah,
against Andre Galvo
yeah,
and didn't get submitted. Like
yeah.
that's really impressive.
Yeah, I think that camp doesn't get like when people talk about like the greatest camps. I don't think that they get mentioned as much as they should. Now I sort of hope that something happens to the Aldo fight where Aldo can't make it, or something happens and we get Peter Yan versus
We're not
Aljo.
we're not we're not wishing injuries here, but if you run into visa problems or something,
Visa problems. That's a good way. That's a good way. No one gets hurt. Aldo can fight the
I
winner
just
of Yan
no,
versus Aljo.
I don't wish that you get hurt. I don't wish harm on anybody, but if you run into some passport problems, you get detained at the airport for, you know, 2 hours, anywhere
Yeah.
between 2 hours and 3 days. I'm okay with that.
Or maybe just Dana throws you 100K to say your knee hurts and you need a little bit more time, and then we can do Sterling versus Peter Yan. But I was also impressed with Cody Garbrandt with the one of the most vicious knockouts you'll ever see with 1 second left in the round. Dude, it was he looked like he was on fast forward. Like Assunção just could not catch up to him. Like he just was.
Yeah,
It was great. It was a great performance.
He's always been really fast. I just think that the last 3 fights he was reckless, especially in the Munoz fight. He was standing in front of people throwing bombs, and he was leaving his chin out there, and he got rocked, multiple times by Dillashaw.
He'd get angry, his emotions would take over, and he would just start throwing bombs or right hands, and would get caught. And maybe, he didn't fight for a long time after those 3 losses. You can't heal your chin, but maybe like giving his brain a little bit of rest and not getting rocked in the gym and not getting knocked out in fights. He took some shots this weekend that maybe that rest played a part into it.
He switched up camps too, which I always think is good. Like, I always like the alpha male guys. They got a great facility out there, right? But it's always difficult when you have fighters who are running the camp.
Yeah.
Like Faber was running the camp, but he was still fighting. And they had great training partners, but then they started to split up. He came out to New Jersey and he was training with Mark Henry, who's Frankie's boxing coach, and then he was training with Ricardo Almeida and those guys. Like, maybe a change of scenery really, benefited him. It looks like it did, but Mark Henry's a legit coach. He flies under the radar a lot, but he's a legit coach.
For sure. I also was impressed with Sean O'Malley finishing Eddie Wineland. Now, we talked last week, Eddie Wineland is not,
like a journeyman.
Yeah, but the way O'Malley set that up with that faint uppercut to come over the top, it was pretty. And
he's so long, right? Like, he's so long, and he utilizes it perfectly. Like, he doesn't waste an inch of that length. Like, he uses every inch of it, and it was obvious. He controlled the distance, and then that came out of nowhere.
Yeah, it was when he hit that. Like, it was a clean, beautiful. It was a Mark Hunt impression, walk-off KO, I love the walk-off KO. It's just one of the most badass things in the world. They hit a dude, he's going out, and you don't like.
Yep, and he's done.
It was beautiful, and then I'm like, all right, beautiful knockout, like knockout of the night, knockout of the year, like what a fight. And then Garbrandt comes out like 2 fights later and just drops a fucking bomb. I was like, I don't think we deserved these 2 beautiful knockouts like back to back like this. It was such a
the
good
Garbrandt
card.
one was actually scary because you're like, when the way that he fell, you're like, okay, like this guy might be seriously injured.
And then they put him on the stool, and then there's like not really paying attention. He starts like falling off the stool. Like, what are you guys doing? Then they take the stool away, and they got him sitting on the ground. And I'm like, this cannot be the best care. This cannot be the best care this guy's getting right now.
We got a lot going on with the COVID. We obviously haven't addressed the procedures that need to be, adhered to by the medical staff.
Yeah, we have to revisit what to do if someone's soul gets detached from their body because of our right hand. The one fight that we sort of glossed over when we were talking about what's coming up soon is DC versus Stipe 3, August 15th. I'm glad the fight's happening. It was a little wishy-washy with whether it was going to happen because Stipe is obviously, like everyone knows, he's a fireman, and has come out and said his job was to be a first responder right now with the virus and everything. So we're like kind of running against the clock a little bit where DC's going to retire soon, but I'm glad the fight's happening. I hope Stipe wins it. DC's already said he's retiring, win or lose, so like it should be a really good end to the trilogy, end to DC's career. I think Stipe needs to win it for the sake of the heavyweight division. You get DC who wins it and then retires.
Right. What happened?
Yeah.
What happens? Do you let Stipe fight again for it? Like, I don't. What happened?
Like,
I think Cormier is going to win.
I don't know. I know in the second fight, Cormier and his coaches.
Mark it down, Patty. Cormier win.
Tell the mailman to chalk it up.
Chalk it up.
I think his Cormier and his coaches were upset that he didn't wrestle more in the second fight, but he was winning the exchanges for those first 3 rounds until Stipe started working the
Yeah,
body. I don't know if DC comes out and
Stipe,
wrestles a lot, that he's obviously gonna give Stipe problems. But I don't
Stipe's a
know.
good wrestler too. Stipe's a well-rounded fighter. It's going to be a good fight. I'm excited. I'm glad that they finally set the date.
All right, I have an over under.
That would have been a dick. That would have been a dick move, right? Oh, yeah, he doesn't want to fight. Well, he's a firefighter. He's a
Yeah,
first responder
yeah,
during the global pandemic. Let's
yeah,
strip him of his title.
yeah, yeah.
Don't be a Dana, don't be a dick.
Well, how about for DC versus Stipe 3, over or under 2.5 eye pokes by DC during the course of the fight?
I'm not even gonna entertain this discussion anymore. I won't let you trample on the good name of a true American hero.
I love him on commentary. I love when he fights when he's not poking people in the eyes, and I love when he's not hanging on a towel to make the weight. But outside of
Oh
that,
my god.
I'm
This fucking guy.
sorry to upset you so much.
It's alright. I'll overlook it for the sake of the show and our fans.
So in pure jiu-jitsu news, we had who's number 1 this weekend.
Right.
The Ryans split 1-1, 1 win, 1 loss.
Yeah. Those Rotolo twins, man, they're little savages. And
Yeah,
everybody makes a big deal about Nicky Ryan because I think Nicky Ryan's like 18 now.
yeah, which is
Uh,
still unreal that he's like,
he might be 19, but regardless,
either
he's
way.
young. He's young and he's really good. But these Rotolo twins, I think they're only 16 years old.
Are
Like
they that
the
young?
one, yeah, the one was only 16 when he competed in Abu Dhabi last year at ADCC, and he took fourth. Like he's a like they're fucking savages, and they're people. I saw somewhere, I think it was Keenan Cornelius said that Nikki is bigger and stronger, but Ty Rutolo has more skill. They were standing next to each other at the weigh-ins, and I'm like, Ty Rutolo is bigger than Nikki, and
Yeah.
he looked stronger than him when they were.
Yeah,
Um,
during the match, it looked like he was just purely. It looked almost. I don't want to say it looked like different weight classes, but it looked
yeah,
like completely
he's
different
big.
strength levels. And
He's big. They're they train. They fight no gi. I've seen them both in a gi. Uh, they're they're incredible. And the other one, Cade Rotolo, beat Ethan Krenlenstein, he actually lives with Gordon Ryan, and he's on the Danaher squad too, and he's legit. And the other, I thought, if we're being honest, I thought he actually beat Cade Rotolo in that fight.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
but that was the Nicky Ryan fight wasn't even close. At the end of it, I'm like, yeah, no, he didn't win. Like
yeah. He
it
looked
was
like
obvious.
in the last like minute and a half or so, like when Nicky was flattened out, his hips were turned over. Bertolo was doing the leg
Yeah,
weave
it was like,
pass, and when he
yeah,
came through the backside off the leg weave, and Nicky just looked like he had no answer. You know what I mean? It was
yeah,
one
it
of
was
those things
crazy.
where it was like, there's no submission locked up yet, but I just have this sense that this match is over in under a minute. Like it just looked like Nicky just didn't have an answer, and he looked like, I don't want to say he looked beaten because that's like bad to say about a person, but he just looked like
Yeah,
he was defeated. Like he looked like he didn't have an answer for him.
and it's great. Like I mean, again, he's so young. You'd be silly not to think that he's going to be, you know, on top or near the top of the podium at, Nogi Worlds and
Yeah.
ADCC in years to come. And it's just crazy to think that these kids, the Rotolo twins, are even younger than he is.
Yeah.
Um,
It's like the new guard, it's these kids coming up like super young. super talented, super athletic. With just
Yeah.
if you were trying to create a perfect jiu-jitsu fighter, you happen to find it. Like it's impressive to watch, but it's just what the new guard is going to be. It's not going to be just dudes who are good but train super hard all the time. It's going to be these genetic monsters who also train super hard, who also pick up technique extremely easily, and that's what you're going to see at the top of the podium.
It's scary. We didn't need a judge's decision in the Gordon Ryan fight, although it was a no time limit sub only match. But Kyle Bame,
it was a nice segue. It was a nice segue you just did anyway.
Yeah. See that segue there? I don't think anybody really thought that Kyle Bame was going to win that.
Anytime Gordon Ryan is competing, if I have to lay money down, I would lay it on Gordon Ryan, and that's just the reality of the situation right now. I don't really think he's going to lose many matches. He's Gordon Ryan. It is what it is.
I don't see anybody beating him. I know Patrick Audio said that he wanted to fight him next, but he already beat him in No Gi World under a rule set which really doesn't play to Gordon Ryan's strength. Well, it does. I mean, any rule set play, he adapts to any rule set, but there's no heel hook in IBJJF, and I just don't see anybody beating him.
Yeah,
he's
a
savage.
The transitions that he finished with this weekend, when he was he was coming up and then he sort of had the triangle, then it was like a shoulder crank. I think I saw some wrist lock in there too, all at the same time. It was all smooth, and that's when I watch him hit those techniques and I watch him hit finishes, it's always smooth. It's always impressive.
And here's the other thing. He's a fucking gorilla. He is a massive human being. And he's not as big as Buchecha, but he's 220 pounds. He doesn't have an ounce of fat on him. We're not going to speculate.
Yeah.
But
you can speculate on your own at home.
And Kyle Bame was bigger than him. Kyle Bame looked like a monster at these weigh-ins. When he was standing next to him, I'm like, this guy's an animal.
Well, when Kyle dropped down to attack the legs,
yeah,
it's I don't see this working out very well. And I mean, Kyle's no slouch. I'm not taking anything away from Kyle, but that wouldn't be my game plan.
Right. That's what the commentator said. The commentator was like, in what universe are you going to heel hook Gordon Ryan?
Yeah. It wouldn't.
In what,
wouldn't be my game plan.
When he fought Buchecha in the finals of ADCC, Buchecha went for a heel hook and Gordon Ryan just laughed. Literally laughed at him on that.
Yeah. It was a really cool transition when Kyle dropped for the leg and was looking for the heel. And Gordon defended, came up, forced the scramble, caught the submission in the scramble, adjusted the submission, and was able to get a little creative and finish. It was clean. It was impressive. And again, it all started from defending, countering, reattacking.
He came up on his. I was like, he's going to take his back, and then he's going to implement the back attack system that he has. This is just me going through it in milliseconds,
Yeah.
But that arm lock, when he started, I'm like, oh, he's got just a triangle arm bar. But that almost looked like an Americana, like a modified arm/shoulder lock.
It was fun to watch. It was fun to watch. I like those Who's Number One events. It's always high production quality. It's fight to win shows.
Yeah, it's the fight to win crew that does it. They always do a good job.
Well, I appreciate everyone sticking out. I don't know how long this episode's going to turn out to be because we obviously had a ton of stuff that we wanted to get to. A lot of UFC news came out in the last couple days, and we didn't want to skip any of it. So I'm going to try to make this not a 4-hour long podcast, but I'll do the best I can. We have we actually have like 3 or 4 more things we're recording this week. We have some really big special guests that are coming on that we're both really excited about. So make sure, if you haven't already, subscribe to wherever you get your podcast. Make sure you're subscribed, because we're going to put a few more things out this week. This is the part where you're supposed to say thanks.
Thanks.
All right, thanks guys. We'll see you next time.